cooperative sector for the last 5 years after 20 years in core banking, developing expertise in establishing digitally governed cooperatives. He is from Udupi, is a graduate from NITK in 1996. Anup, over to you to conduct this session.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pai, as well. Thank you, Pratiksha, for inviting us. What we hope to achieve, we've got some great guests here. We've got Nayaz, we've got Ajit, and we've got Girish and Pratiksha. We're going to cover a few areas where MSMEs can learn from India's startup success and imbibe a certain learning from that last 10 years that we've gone through the startup evolution in India. So I'm going to introduce quickly the guests, the panelists, starting with Ajit. Ajit is the founder, maybe not the founder, but yeah, he's close to, he's the CEO of Delivery, listed logistics company. And I think working with a number of D2C brands carrying goods for these D2C brands and multiple other brands across India, and can be a great platform for the growth of MSMEs in India, because logistics and getting their goods to market is a big challenge. We welcome Ajit to the panel. We've got Nayaz, who is the CEO of Jain Incubation Center. Nayaz is a corporate, he was in corporates working on innovation, started working with VTU and has been with Jain for the last 7 years. We wish to learn from his expertise and experiences in applying ecosystem development to the MSME world. We've got Girish Hiremat, also from the corporate world, and has joined Jinserve, JSS's incubation center in Bangalore, as the CEO. We wish to learn from your experience developing ecosystems in Bangalore as well. And we've got CA Pratiksha Pai, who's been supporting MSMEs with the real stuff, with the money, and making them profitable. So welcome, Pratiksha. So over to Ajit, quick introductions maybe.
Thanks. Thanks, Anup. I think you already introduced me. I've now spent about 12 years in the process of building Delivery. We started as a small single city 20-member operation. Today we are spread out all over India across about 20,000 pin codes, and we're India's largest logistics company. I've myself played different roles in that journey. I was actually the first CFO of the company. I subsequently have done operations, sales, so different roles at different points in time. Been a very exciting phase. Personally, I come from a business family from Bangalore. My family was into FMCG distribution, subsequently into manufacturing, and I continue to have an interest in that business. So I have a view of the MSME world from that side as well. I was just hearing the presentation before us. I think the one thing that is striking for all of us to note is that we are in India in a generation. Every country I think has 2 or 3 generations which really change the destiny of that country, right? And I think we do have the opportunity to be part of those generations, given the time that we live in. And I think across different sectors, whether it's startups, corporates, MSMEs, I think that opportunity is extremely, that opportunity is very much ours to either exploit or lose.
100% we will. And you forgot to mention Modern Kitchen, a very loved brand in my home, started by Ajit's family, and we are related, by the way. I mean, we are cousins, and we know each other from childhood.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I've worked in corporates, then worked in startups as well to help them scale revenues to multi-million dollars, I mean. So further than that, I was part of VTU. I have worked on an innovation strategy for for creating entrepreneurial opportunities for 4 lakh students studying in 200 plus engineering colleges of Karnataka. So from there moved on to Jain. So at Jain Launchpad, so we are a startup incubator, accelerator, and a seed fund. So we have our collective portfolio is close to 125 plus companies, close to 1,500 crore of valuation, close to 100 crores of funding has been raised by our portfolio companies, and we are sector agnostic. So we have startups from across domains. And then looking at that, I mean, we have had a tremendous experience and exposure to a lot of startups and a lot of industry experts, mentors out there. So I'd also like to make a point that the Jain also has a CMS business school which is focused on entrepreneurship as well as family businesses, and probably I hope to talk more about that
100%
connection.
we will.
Thank you.
So I think what we want to double click on is a conversation we caught on some time ago, which is around investment in human capital. Ajit brought up a great point, given his background, building delivery, as well as being part of a business family, knowing the MSME journey. And Jain Incubator and others who also run educational institutions. How can we make it cool for people to work in MSME sector? Right? Would be something that we could double click on as we go along. Girish, over to you.
Good morning, or rather good afternoon, Ellargu Namaskara. Thank you Saraswat Chambers, and thank you Pratiksha for having got us involved in this. And firstly, it feels really wonderful to be in this awesome auditorium. It's something I didn't know that there is something like this exists in Bangalore. Great. So that said, what I do is I currently head an organization called Global Incubation Services. In short, we call it GINSERV. We are a technology business incubator. This year we'll be celebrating 15 years of nurturing tech startups. And we belong to JSS group of institutions, which is based in Mysore. In addition to this, I also have the additional responsibility of, managing a small incubator in our engineering, JSS Engineering College, where we do a lot of MSME related work. But with regards to my major focus has been at GINSERV in the last 5 years. And between, like as Anup mentioned, I spent about 2 decades in the telecom world. Started my career in advertising and brand management, and then over a period of time, worked with all the large telcos in India, where I kind of, worked with vendors, MSMEs, and then built a lot of new products and markets and all that. And then later, I kind of happened to be an accidental entrepreneur. I mean, like between this stint and the corporate stint for about 8 years, I also kind of, launched my own outfit, ran it for about 8 years, and suddenly COVID hit, and then, then this particular opportunity came. So now coming to this particular phase at GINSERV, when you say what is the technology business incubator, in other words, it's like a practicing startup institute. The only difference is that, we don't have the academicians or, faculty sitting with us. We rely on people like, Anup or Ajit, who are essentially entrepreneurs, have, got huge experience, and we kind of get them involved in our whole process. And in the last 15 years, we have assisted about 500 tech startups to kind of scale up from an idea stage to kind of, become ventures. And then, they have created about over 10,000 jobs, and we have helped them to raise over about 75 crores. And all this has been possible is basically because of the huge support that we get from the government. At the central level, we work with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. We are their recognized incubator, and additionally Startup India. So through these 2 major institutes, we have invested nearly about 8-9 crores in about 25 tech startups. So this is kind of and I will kind of share more on what we do, how we are able to help these startups when they come with idea, how they can scale up, and which perhaps, like even we can work with MSMEs as we go along. Yeah, thank you, Anup.
Thank you, Anup. I'm CA Pratiksha Pai of Bangalore. I am a partner at SS Nayak and Associates. I'm also a finance content creator on various social media platforms. And I've also authored a book for Class 12 accountancy. Other than that, I'm also a director at Saraswat Chamber. And in that context also, I heartily welcome our delegates who have flown in from all over the world for this conclave today. So hearty welcome to all of you to Startups in a Tavaruru Namma Bengaluru. And coming to today's topic, when I was originally not a part of the panel, but I got to know just 5 minutes back from CASS Naik sir that I have to be in the panel. And as Ullas Kamath sir told, nobody can say a no to CASS Naik, so here I am. But yes, I was involved with the panel and various discussions that happened in the, in the behind the scenes. So I'm here with the perspective of CA as well today in this panel. And when we had a discussion behind the scenes, we thought that why just have startup to scale up? Why not merge the MSMEs and startups in one topic? Because we have a healthy mix of MSMEs and startups over here today. So we steered the topic towards re-engineering of conventional MSMEs into modern startup ecosystem. So how MSMEs can take advantage of whatever the startup ecosystem has to offer today. Because when I'm talking about MSMEs, one thing is for sure that many of these MSMEs have run through decades and have passed the test of time. And with the incubation support that startups get today, just imagine the kind of growth that MSMEs can do. And MSMEs are one of the strongest pillars of our economy as well. So with a bit of innovation and a small change in mindset, that because MSMEs always are profit oriented than valuation oriented. So with that sort of a small change here and there, a lot of MSMEs can get into this modern startup ecosystem and get really good benefits out of that.
Thanks, Pratiksha. We've got two finance people. Ajit started his life as a CFO of delivery, and Pratiksha. And both of them with great exposure to the MSME world as practicing and as somebody who's come from that world. We've got two corporate guys and me, right? I mean, also a corporate guy. One from the advertising world and one from R&D. Yeah. So, yeah. So what we're going to do is, like Pratiksha mentioned, how can we get the MSME sector, which is an important sector, I won't call it strong because it is quite fragile at this point, and for obvious reasons. So how can we take this important sector, which contributes 30% to the GDP, and learn from the startup ecosystem in terms of innovation, collaboration, investment in human capital, and other things, processes, policies, and all of that, to make these as sustainable enterprises. They don't need to be billion-dollar companies like like other companies and so on, and they can be as well. But the least we can expect is for the founder, for the proprietor to have something, as an asset value when he or she wants to retire, right? It should be easy for a founder or a proprietor to retire, sell his company or hand over his company to somebody else, get a valuation done at that point. Till that time, valuation should not matter. All of that, right? So let's, walk through what can be done. We've got a great set of panelists. So my first question is to Ajit. I think something that you said backstage really stuck with me, that the investment in human capital is low in the priority sector, in the priority order for MSMEs. How can it be elevated a little bit more? How can it be made more, important?
No, I think I think if you look at startups, and for the limited purpose of this discussion, let's take the topic as re-engineering MSMEs to think about how startups have done well in some sectors without getting into maybe startups have not done well on some things, but let's say if you take what they've done well on, right? I think the one big difference has been the infusion of a large amount of professional human capital, right? Um, uh, just look at basically some of the startups. They have maybe 2 founders, 3 founders, but they have 40, 50 senior executives who have all basically come from professional backgrounds, um, who probably, in a world where the startup did not attract them, okay, would have worked in a corporate role, becoming a head of some business or head of some factory or operation, etc., and drawn a salary, right? But they have come into the startup sector. They have created, or they have been responsible for the journey of creating wealth. They have taken some of that wealth themselves as ESOPs, etc., right? But what they have brought to the sector is the mindset of actually being able to help scale, right? The reality is that any enterprise, whether it's a startup or an MSME, ultimately, if it relies only on the steam of 2 or 3 people, right? The train will reach the station at some point. Yeah. There is no doubt about it. You need to have, you need to have a continuous set of people who can drive the engine forward. And as the engine becomes larger and the journey becomes, longer, you need to have more and more people who are doing some part of it, and not just as sort of, not just as a CEO or a CEO, but at different levels in the organization. Now, we spoke about this backstage. See, ambition in terms of what you want to get to and the desire to get somewhere, there may be various limitations on that one can impose, right? Like, you don't necessarily need to be a listed unicorn, right? Yeah. Only a certain percentage of startups, and that too dependent on which industry they are in, will have that opportunity or should even exploit that opportunity. But is it possible to create a large number of sustainable mid-sized organizations? The foundation of any economy is ultimately that. Yeah. It's small and mid, right? I think as India, we are still very much indexed on small, not on mid, right? And I think the journey between going to more of mid, okay, actually lies in a more even, and I would say more even balance between investment in human capital, technology, marketing, as compared to, let us say, physical assets. I do think that the MSME sector in India has been much more focused on tangible physical assets and trading businesses. And one of the reasons is that there is very little investment going into the other 3 aspects. So balancing that more, having the mindset to do that. And I think once you have the mindset to do it, then it is a question of actually getting down to executing, bringing the right people. I do think that the talent pool exists, yeah, right? It's just about bringing them in with the right proposition is what I think. I think that's really the main step forward.
Perfect. So I think you've covered one major factor, which is, all the money capital that founders of MSMEs had went into investing in physical capital because banks were reticent. There's a collateral was needed for the physical capital to be built. Now with the government stepping in with a lot of new schemes for building physical capital, more of that capital can now be allocated to creating human capital, intellectual capital, technology capital, intellectual property, and so on. So maybe we are at that cusp of that change. The mindset has to change. Obviously, we need to find the credentials to go out and hire great people and retain them and motivate them and all of that, which also will be learnings that the MSME sector would have to go through, which is where I want to pick the brains of the 2 gentlemen here, starting with Nayaz, you. Every company that comes to your ecosystem is a small company or even an idea at some point, and they end up becoming larger companies. Identify for me the key traits of a founder that is able to hire well and retain well and motivate well, rather than, we hear of a lot of startup founders being control freaks and all of that. And obviously there's that also. But let's focus on the ones who can hire well, retain well, motivate well. And what do you see, Randy?
Yeah. So most of the time in the incubation process, right? So where we have a lot of these are very early stage founders who may not even have a product. They're pretty much idea stage. So they themselves don't have a team. So right now it's one or two co-founders who are working together and all of that. So at that stage, there is most likely a lot of those traits are not visible at all, which kind of moves, say once they raise funding, once they want to scale startups, is when actually all of those things come in. So at that stage, it's usually not visible, but that is where we kind of, as an incubator, play a role as well. So that is where we bring in a lot of, we have these knowledge sessions, we have these one-on-one mentoring sessions. So that is where in the knowledge sessions, what we do is, a lot of the founders, when they come, and especially if they are tech founders, they don't have a clue about business and running the business. So that is where a lot of these knowledge sessions equip them to know what a business is, right? So they are just looking at the product, and if we give them an opportunity, they want to keep building the product forever. Because that is what they love, right? So when you have that love for the product, they never want to churn their product out in the market. So I feel that is one of the aspects of that. I just wanted to kind of also a little bit go back and pick on Ajit's thought process, right? And a little bit of contrary. I was actually lucky to attend the session of Shri Ulat Kamas sir 2 days back at the Ficki's family business, and I found that there were a couple of very key points which just Ajit mentioned. So, and sir spoke at length about this having a succession plan for family businesses and all of that. But there were very key, some of the key points was in terms of a lot of these first generation, second generation MSME founders now. Currently the current generation, we are sending them to business schools, we are sending them abroad, all of that. And with all of that new knowledge, new aspirations, they don't want to come back and join the MSME, right? Join the company. And that is where it's the importance of having a succession plan, but also looking at, can you start building, like Ajit mentioned, there's a lot of resources available. So can you kind of give them an opportunity, or even say some of the points were like, can a founder also have a retirement plan, right? Or a current CEO can have a retirement plan. So those things kind of give more confidence to the next in line to come and take those positions. Like they have that mindset that, okay, tomorrow I can reach the helm of this organization and then scale them, take them to the next level kind of thing.
Super.
Yeah.
So we've got great mentors like Ajit that can mentor MSMEs with human capital, building systems and so on. We've got great institutions like Jain, and the talent that the Jain educational institutions can provide to the MSME sector. But how do we make it aspirational or even respected for a young professional to work in a small company that is making things not cool enough like the IT-led startups would be, your advertising and brand building brains maybe can...
Yeah, I think one of the key thing is that today the kind of exposure the whole startup ecosystem has got on the print, TV, and then various medium, that has tremendously helped. And you open YouTube, one or the other startup founder is kind of talking about something. I think that needs to happen for MSME. And that said, MSME, this is what I have quite a few friends who are running their MSME business. When I tell them that, okay, now you have built this MSME business, you need to scale it up, you need to go and, do something. You need to hire good talent and all that. They say, no, we are not able to get talent. The reason is they are not able to get talent is because one is traditional, they are focusing on certain traditional models of business or the regions they are focused. So this is where when they already have something with them, they can pivot and launch something, okay, a new product, create their own brand. Like for example, this friend of mine who creates a lot of these components for Lego toy factory, okay, and Lego is a huge brand and all that. So why can't he, and then he has this factory in tier 2 place like Dharwad. And why can't he create his own toy brand for the local markets and then, build it over a period of time? So that is when, like you will have management students or engineering graduates would like to kind of come in. So there is a need that, like the MSME entrepreneur has to kind of start thinking that, how I have been here, I've done this, now how do I kind of move forward? And what help I can kind of take from the ecosystem? That is where, people like us come in. Because what we have done, even in the startup, earlier startup thing, it used to be more of an art. Now it is not, it's become a kind of science. Because when any startup comes to us, we kind of figure out at what stage they are. Is there a problem solution fitment properly done? Is there a product market fitment properly done? Is there a business model market fitment done? So we kind of assess this, not just us. And then there is a whole ecosystem meant. See, typically we say we provide three things. What is three things? One is mentorship. The second is money. The third is the market access, right? So, and there is not just one or two of us sitting. There is a whole battery of team and the government agencies, everybody is sitting. So that is where a lot of things will suddenly kind of, they get a momentum and then they can move.
They get recognition and broader ecosystem.
Yes, yes.
Pratiksha, I want to, you brought up this concept of, merging the MSME and the startup ecosystem discussions together. So I want to, pick your brain on, you work with a lot of MSMEs, making things in different parts of Karnataka, India, wherever. You work with startups as well. Explain to me how, so we are in this whole digital world now. How can startups partner with your MSMEs, and how do we start from there, right? Because finally the economy is making real things. Right?
Yes, yes. So these are two things which MSMEs and startups which can be very beautifully interlinked. Now, for example, Nayaz told that startups are all into tech, but they don't know business. With MSMEs, it's ulta. MSMEs know the business, they don't have the tech. Yeah. So it is here where people like you, me, incubator CEOs have to join hands and try to make these connections where a business would be in a position of knowing business as well as tech, because most of the works that MSMEs do in a day-to-day operation, most of it can be automated. But on one side, the startups feel that, MSMEs don't have technology, they don't have innovation, it's the same old business, we don't want to go into that. And on the other side, MSMEs feel that startups are just doing losses these days. And it's only the valuation and all that, and we don't want to get into that space. So somewhere both the mindsets have to be changed. Okay, MSMEs have this very huge resistance towards giving out stakes. Okay, why should I give out my equity and then, this business won't be mine, sort of. But what I'd like to tell them is, rather than having a whole grape, you can have a huge slice of a watermelon. Why not understand that? And, even when we spoke about human resource in startups as well, and you made a statement, how would younger talent want to work with these startups who are making losses? But just imagine MSMEs coupled with the technology side, and they've passed the test of time. Yeah. Some of these MSMEs have been there for decades, for generations. Yeah. And if they can get into the next, category right now, and with all the incubation support, because MSMEs may not even know the concept of incubators. They'll know something called startup incubators exist, and that's not for us. That kind of an attitude. But if they know what incubators do, how incubators can cater to them, then even for the incubators, the market out there is so huge. Yeah. Okay, and even for MSMEs, the scope for growth is so huge. Like now when Pranav told in his talk that 51 billionaires are from the education background, education business. We have so many people in education. How many of them could actually become billionaires? When you look at the number of education businesses that are there in our country, vis-a-vis the number of billionaires it has produced, that's quite a small number. So this is where startup ecosystem, and not only the startup businesses per se, but every other institutions like incubators. Now see, startups don't like banking institution, MSMEs don't like incubators. That mindset should change. Somewhere everything should align, and we also have an example among us who is Bharat. Okay, his father's business, which is an MSME business, but he pulled out a vertical out of which and made it into an EV, and they are an award-winning startup at Karnataka Elevate. And he's also carrying on the MSME business, which his father has, which he inherited from his father, and now he is also founder of his own startup. So that is where we feel that all MSMEs and startups should be like that.
Merged, work together.
Yes.
So we're short of time, I believe, and we have a lot of questions from the audience. So I'm just going to keep this one segment short. So we all believe, and Pranav also mentioned, that India will be a developed economy. It's definite. It's India's decade. All of that we've heard, right? And I believe it completely. And and from my perspective, I think MSMEs are important because I have this personal philosophy that instead of 1,000 unicorns, or even 10,000 unicorns, can there not be $1 million companies, or a large number of viable, sustainable, profitable businesses that are all there, right? Both can exist, both will exist. We'll have multiple unicorns and we'll have multiple $1 million or 10 crore companies and profitable companies. To do that, we need to now get our act together and start building real things in the economy. From my perspective, I think there is work happening at the Government of India level as well as at the local level and so on. We are working on it. I feel all of us can contribute a lot to this. I think what I want to take on this segment is your personal view on how MSMEs will power India's decade, and how you and your institutions see it and want to participate in this growth.
Sure. I'll start with the second part of your question because that is one very key segment that delivery at least builds its services for, right? Today, more so than ever, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is non-e-commerce, part truckloads, full truckloads, etc., one of our key objectives has been to democratize access to logistics, right? So whether you ship 2 shipments a day or whether you ship 20 boxes a day, how do I give you the same level of access and service that let us say a large platform like a Flipkart or an Amazon or a Hindustan Lever will be able to get because of the size of the business they give, right? And today we have close to about, as it stands, 40,000 businesses, of which 39,800 are extremely small businesses who work with delivery directly. They access our services through either the mobile phone or through a panel, which is an online panel, and seamlessly ship and through across the country, right? From our perspective, at least as delivery, we believe that sort of expanding the range of offerings, making it even easier for people to access these services is very, very critical. In let us say, for example, towards our own destiny of being India's largest logistics service provider. So we're doing it not with any altruistic motive. We're doing it because it is an important part of our business. Right?
And you are that.
Yes.
The largest logistics player.
Absolutely. So I think that's really what it is, right? So I think and logistics is one such basic service that every business needs. So far as your point around the MSME decade or the next couple of decades is concerned, there's something very interesting that I was seeing just now. We all of us consider that US is possibly the most developed economy. It has gone through all of the phases of development, etc. Even today, close to about 55% of the wealth sits actually in family-owned businesses in an economy as large and as developed as the US, right? And while maybe a significant portion of that is covered by, enterprises like a Walmart and a Cargill, etc., I would not be surprised to see that, a good proportion of that 55% is still sitting in mid and small sized business, maybe more mid than small.
I can vouch for that. I did a round of the community banks and credit unions, especially the community banks. They're all old generation wealth that's
Absolutely.
holding a lot of local wealth in the Midwest and other places.
Absolutely. The way I think about it is that I think it's the reverse. I think if we need to be a 10 trillion economy, if we need to be a 20 trillion economy, we need this sector to be very vibrant.
Yeah.
There is no real path to becoming a large, a developed economy without this sector being
Vibrant,
being vibrant. So it's the reverse of what we think. I don't think it's the question is that we will get to 10 trillion and what will this sector get to.
Yeah.
This sector not getting to where its destiny is will prevent us from getting to the 10 trillion or
100%, I believe that.
So I think that's at least my view on the MSME. The only part I will end my thoughts on this is that I think we need more entrepreneurs to think mid rather than small to begin with, right? And take external help, whether it is small amounts of funding, whether it is human capital, whether it is technology and marketing support and IP. See, today, taking that, nobody can do everything. That is the first thing we need to be clear about. Okay, I may be an expert at 3 things, but there are 7 things that I need to learn about. And the best thing for me to do it is to take that help, right? So from a mindset standpoint, that open mindset to saying that, let me bring in human capital, let me bring in help and scale, right? To whatever level I feel like, okay? I may not want to scale to some massive level, right? I think that is important. I think so long as we get out of that mindset, I don't see why this sector doesn't have a very bright future.
Super. Great thoughts, Ajit. Nayaz, over to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all agreed that MSMEs play a crucial role and contribute a large, significant portion of employability and the GDP, right? So, if you look at, it also comes with a lot of its own challenges as well. Be it, we spoke about manpower, we spoke about technology, we spoke about finance, and all of that. But if you look at, there is one of the aspects that when an MSME needs finance, if for example, we only look at banks, but there is a lot more opportunities around government schemes as well, which actually the startups are exploiting well. So, I mean, I just wanted to kind of share a couple of schemes, like we have Nidhi Prayas, which is a 10 lakh rupees of grant, and any individual innovator, startup, company can apply to this particular grant. And similarly, we have, of course, Elevate here in the state government, which gives up to 50 lakh rupees of grant, but of course, they need to be less than 10-year-old company. And also we were touching upon how MSMEs needs to look at developing clusters around them, and there is a MSMEs SME CDP scheme, and there is also a scheme called Spurti by the Ministry of MSME central government. So where actually there is an outlay of 150 crores to create clusters around specific sectors, and if you can be a key player and you can write the proposal to the government and build that cluster around you, bring that partnerships and build that community around you. And the final key aspect of leveraging these startups to probably build your next set of innovative products. I think that is one of the very key aspects for an MSME to look at partnering with startups for product development, for taking that product into the market, and so on and so forth. And if you look at, the West has done this very well, right? So, and we in India have not really leveraged, like most of the bigger companies in US, like we have accelerators for Target and Cisco here in Bangalore, so where they reach out to startups and they want them to solve their problems. And in turn, they give access to their customers in US and all of that. I think we can actually learn some of those models and see how actually MSMEs can leverage startups more in terms of product development and so on and so forth.
And I believe Jain already has an MSME incubator or focus on MSMEs.
Yes, yes. In fact, since we also have a CMSB school where most of the kids who study are come from family business background, so that is where we are also trying to see how we can kind of nurture them, and we are trying to create a focus around D2C and family business, and see how we can nurture some of these kids who can actually either start their own companies or go back to their family businesses and hold the next generation
Super.
businesses.
So I
yeah.
think the focus on government and connecting the government to the MSME sector via incubators like Jain, I think is a key point. Let's
Absolutely. So
Girish,
one last scheme is also, I mean, any MSMEs who's looking at scaling up or for manufacturing facilities, there is a technology development board, TDB. So it is 10 crores and upwards. So if you are looking for any funding, this is again a Government of India fund. So you should explore that, because most of the time, most MSMEs are not aware of it and do not exploit this particular, which actually is for MSMEs then startups. Thank you.
I think CAs like Pratiksha will make sure that they're aware of it, their clients are aware of it. So, on it, yeah. Girish, your thoughts on...
So, I mean, we all know that there are 6.5 crores MSMEs in India, and then, they create jobs of nearly 11 crores. And similarly, if we look at the startup numbers, it's about close to 2 lakhs now, and they have created jobs of about 50 lakh, they have given the jobs. Now, if you see this contrast, and and also within the MSME itself, I believe there was some study that was done, and in this 6.3 or 6.5 crores, there is about 10 to 15% of the MSMEs are kind of medium-sized organizations, and they do the major bulwark, they lift the major weight. And there was a study that was done across these 800 or 1,000, mid-sized organization, and found out why they have been able to, do these things, and then why they have been successful. The three things that were found out. One was that, their, keenness to adopt technology. And the second was to kind of, go and build their own certain products, create their own brand. That was the second part. And the third one was the kind of more of in terms of innovation, whether it is in terms of their business model and all that. So what startups are actually start from the beginning itself, they started doing that. So that is where, I think the MSMEs have to kind of slowly start looking at that, and that's where this whole ecosystem of incubation can play a role.
And Jinserv has an MSME outreach.
Yes. So that is the one part. The other part is that, when I talked about the 3M, one is that how we help the startups is predominantly we go and create a lot of doors, open the doors for the startups when it comes to especially the go-to-market stage. Going to corporates, talking to them, saying that, here is my startup, this is the great idea and all that. We kind of take that interest and do that, right? Similarly, in MSME, I think the bodies like CASIA and, any of these kind of associations, they should really come together. And they should start kind of creating this sort of a venture building model. Where we have some kind of a background and understanding, we can work with them and help them. And the other part is also that what we need to do is MSME and startup collaboration. See, instead of, one is we take startups to corporates, but we can also bring MSMEs and startups to kind of together and see what are the kind of, best practices, how they can, because startups also need to learn from MSMEs.
They can
because
become each other's customers more than...
Exactly.
Yes.
Because the MSME entrepreneur, he's trying to put many hats, trying to do so many things on his own, despite all the constraints of resources. Here, we have created. So that also is a good lesson for the startup founder. So, and if there is some IP, okay, because typically startups have, why they are able to, one is basically because of the disruptive, technology or IP. That is one that kind of sets them. The other one is the business model. It's a scalable business model. So that is where they are able to kind of ramp up. So that is if we are able to, bring and mesh these things together. And then I think we are
So
done.
I heard a sort of a proposal coming up there, Saraswat Chamber of Commerce, to have like a MSME accelerator for
Yes.
your MSME,
No, the-
partnering with these incubators and also, yeah. So
No,
I think
from-
that's what I heard, right?
Yes, definitely. We'll be very happy. There are two schemes. I mean, like from the MSME, I don't know how many of them. There is one MSME, especially if there are MSME at the early stage. There is from the Ministry of MSME, there is a MSME hackathon that happens every year, right? And if they participate and if they there is a 15 lakh grant only for MSME. And that 15 lakh will be actually not directly given. It will be given through that MSME incubator. That's number one. The other scheme is there is a accelerator, program for MSMEs from the MSME department itself. That is something maybe Saraswat can kind of look at it and then,
So Pratiksha, it was your brainchild to bring startups and MSMEs or the thinking together. I think it was an early attempt. So we'd like a report card from the Saraswat Chamber of Commerce, from the
Absolutely.
panelists and the moderator.
Yes, I think Yashaswini and Anil have been shooting me and Anup in the ear from that time. So I'll just keep it as short and sweet as possible. So definitely, as you mentioned, 6.5 crore MSMEs and a good lot of lakhs of startups. And we can see a very good, kind of collaboration or merging or a marriage of convenience of MSMEs and startups. And definitely we need to work on this. As you said, it's something very early on which we are discussing right now maybe. And before the divide gets more rigid or more deeper, and then it's not possible. Before that happens, we need to see how we can do some, best practices to get them on, I would not call it a similar platform as such, but have a give and take between them both. As chartered accountant, having worked with MSMEs, working with startups, this looks like a good futuristic prospect where we can be any chartered accountant in the audience, not only me, should be acting as a link between this and knowing basically how to take the best of both worlds and see what an MSME lacks, and if a startup per se can provide that, like a tech, for example, or see what a startup lacks, like the business capabilities, and see if an MSME can. And even another thing, what Pranav told, while regarding going public, if you feel you're not big enough to go public, merge into each other, the businesses, and then take it public. So something of that sort, if it can happen, co-creation and merging to take it to a next level of scalability, then that really works out. And I think with incubators, bankers here in the audience, and chartered accountants and MSMEs and startups, this could be a huge, I could say, one of the birthplaces, MAHE, Bengaluru, where this discussion has happened. And, everyone has taken this up seriously. Because when I mentioned this topic the other day on the call, I'm thankful to all of you that you all didn't laugh it off, saying, no, this can't happen. At least we thought that it is a point of discussion at least. And we can try to bring these both ecosystems together. And then I think, 10 trillion should really be a cakewalk.
Thanks for, yeah.
That we'll create a marriage of purpose, not convenience.
Convenience chalta hai, but I mean, that's where the Q-commerce and everybody else comes in. I thank the panelists, Ajit, Nayaz, Girish, and Pratiksha. I think there are a lot of questions from the students in the audience, I believe. We don't have time, I've been told. So therefore, I request all the panelists to maybe find a quiet spot. If anybody has any questions, maybe you can approach the panelists and myself somewhere on the side, right? Thank you, Mr. Pai. Thanks,
so just
everybody.
to add, we will all be available here today. So I also thank all the students who've shown interest and are aspiring entrepreneurs. You can catch hold of any of us and put out your questions there.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I request you to take a felicitation from us. I request Dr. Vasappa from, please come, sir, Union Bank of India, DGM. He's in charge of the training college, to honor the speakers of the panelists, Ajit Pai, Girish. First, sorry for the miss. Yes. And Pratiksha Pai. Before we move on to the next session, one or two announcements regarding the QR code. The photos, one set of photos are already uploaded, and the people are getting alerts that their photos have been there. Yeah, and I request SS Naik to please felicitate Vasappa for felicitating our speaker. Meanwhile, requesting all the delegates to visit the stalls of the sponsors. Nobody will walk out for Ulas's session.